It's awful. Hang it up. So it's always nice to hear someone say something kind, but you got to take it with a grain of salt. Those come in. Yeah. Those are the ones you hang on to and just you rest your head on and go, hey man, that guy said it was great. But there's also the other people that just say, dude, you blow. It just sucks. Cut it out.
And once in a while, in those rare cases, you listen and you kind of go back and you're like, you know what, this song really does kind of suck. Maybe I should change this, or maybe I should make a different song. And sometimes that helps us out a little bit, because as musicians, we get a little bit stuck on our work. We get a little bit like, oh yeah, this song is awesome. I love this song. It's so great. And nobody else likes it at all.
No.
And you just don't understand why.
No, man, it's your baby. You're going to put it out. You're going to go, I love it. It's wonderful. Isn't he wonderful? And people are going to shit. I'm sorry. It's awful. I'm sorry. It's just go away. Come back another day,
No unsolicited records in our mailbox anymore, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone's home.
No, that's the dogs. It sounded like there was somebody in the mailbox, so I guess we'll have to investigate that. Somebody's going to get up off the couch and check that out. But anyway, so that's good, though. It's one of my favorite things about having people on the show is always just getting into like the process and getting into like how they do the shows and how they do their particular thing, so to speak. And I have a healthy respect for just good, solid rock music. Because like sometimes being big into like real technical stuff, like being into Nine Inch Nails, take a drink, and some of the heavier, like real heavy technical metal bands, there's so many layers that you kind of forget about in the individual pieces and parts of a good, solid song. So you have to go back and listen to bands like Queens of the Stone Age, and
you mean like straight out rock? You like right.
Yeah, it's not complicated, but that doesn't mean it's not good. That doesn't mean it's not technical to a certain degree. It's just it's not meant to be layers upon layers of like 1,200 guitars just making a perfect riff all the time. It's just supposed to be in your face and just sound good, and I have a healthy respect for that. It's always awesome to get anything like that into my eardrums.
Yeah, it is, and it's good to have outside influences that are nothing like your music, because you can always take from those things. Like for me, I'll listen. Generally speaking, I'll get people that the main comment that I'll get is, hey, you play something akin to classic rock. Okay, yeah. And I know that it's because that's where my tastes were as a kid growing up. If you saw my record collection, my literal record collection, I have probably almost 600 vinyl records. And I was looking at it the other day. It starts from like 1968 when the first Zepp album came out. That was about where it started, and it ends on my last year of high school, except for a few cherry-picked albums, like the ones that I thought ought to be in there, like Guns N' Roses. I thought those guys should be in that collection, but that's where my record collection stops. So between all those hard rock and heavy metal bands, that's where my influences were. So of course I'm going to sound like that. I do have to sort of refresh my own taste for what's happening now to see if I can come closer to the mainstream, because you as a musician, you're trying to appeal to people, at the same time stay true to yourself. So you have to find some common ground at the same time you're seeking, recognition. So, it's a balance.
Well, retro is really big right now, but at the same time, you never want to go so retro that you sound dated. You want to, like, especially with the electronica crowd, 80s synth stuff is huge right now. But you don't want to sound like an 80s synth band. You want to sound like somebody who likes 80s synth, who is respectful of 80s synth, and is still trying to do something new with it. So it's kind of
new and improved.
Oh, definitely. And it's hard to say whether it's really improved or not, but at least, it's refreshing to hear some of those older sounds brought forward in kind of a newer way with maybe a new chord or something different Just changing it up a little bit.
Exactly.
All right. Well, are we due for a break now, Shels?
No, you guys. 2 more minutes.
So a few minutes?
Yeah.
Oh,
we're still riffing. All right.
I'm rushing everything.
We're still riffing.
That's right. Well, we talked about influences, all that good stuff. So let's talk about when you are out and about and you're listening to more modern music and things. Out of maybe music from the last 10, 15 years or so, who probably stands out to you the most as maybe being a little bit outside the rest of the crowd, who might be a little bit either inspiring or just somebody that you think, you know what, you're doing a good job, dude?
Green Day, for sure. Those guys just rip. I've seen a lot of videos of them pull off some live stuff, and to me, a lot of why I like Green Day is number one, their recording quality is killer, and the sound quality on those CDs is just over the top. I mean, everything is just perfect. But I remember watching a video of these guys playing live, I think in London or something like that, and these guys had the crowd just eating out of their hand. And it wasn't just that; it was that their songs live sounded better to me live, and that it is it's near impossible, I would say, ever for a band to pull that off. I've so rarely seen bands outdo themselves in a live setting when I already think their album is over the top great, or if I'm listening to. And as far as musicianship, if you listen to American Idiot, that album to me is Beatlesque. It is so good. The way that the songs flow through the album, the chord structures, the moods, sort of how the songs flow. Those guys are on top. I mean, I would consider them. What are they, from the '90s or something like that?
Yeah, about '90s, because they were part of the big pop punk kind of craze that started. Although they weren't necessarily, I'd say, pop punk. They had kind of the image, but they didn't quite have the. They had more of a solid rock sound with a little bit of punk influence, kind of. But around that '90s time frame.
Mm-hmm. And then there's some stuff that Glenn Hughes is putting out too. I follow that guy. There was a band out not too long ago called Black Country Communion, and I'm already gonna love this because it's got Jason Bonham in it. It's got Glenn Hughes, who was part of Deep Purple Mark III. He was one of the main singers, along with David Coverdale. And this guy's voice is as hot as it ever was. I can't even. I'm thinking this guy's pushing 70 now, but as for a rock voice, it's angelic, man. I mean, usually you'll for example, Brian Johnson of AC/DC. Ever after the very first Back in Black, his voice was headed downhill. That Back in Black album was probably the best rock album in history, period, bar none. Recorded quality, song for song, best rock and roll album of all time. But every successive album got progressively weaker, and his voice, I never really liked it, especially comparing it next to Bon Scott. And Bon Scott, I always thought, was elevating his game throughout his entire career, whereas Bon Scott started at the top and started working backwards. And usually that's what I see through aging rockers, you know. But this guy, Glenn Hughes, who's singing for BCC, is just amazing, man, you know, and technically beautiful, and what he's writing and the themes, beautiful.
Cool. When you bring up Green Day being how impressive they are as a live band, that's definitely something difficult to find these days in music, because it seems like a lot of bands, when they made the switch to the digital empire, so to speak, they kind of took the easy route. They figured, it's so easy to put out an album nowadays. We can just sit back and earn a bunch of money off of it. which is basically how Metallica got really upset with Napster, because that's what they'd done. They just had put out albums and they had stopped worrying about doing as much touring as they used to. And they were just kind of resting on their laurels and expecting it to kind of carry them through. And so they started losing money off, downloads and everything like that. So they got upset. But now they're touring all the time. Now they're pumping out albums on a regular basis, and it ended up being positive for them if you're a Metallica fan. But there are a lot of bands, they didn't make that transition very well. They just kind of like sat back, and they don't do very good live shows. Whereas other bands, they know the digital landscape. They know that people are really, when they come to a show, they're expecting like something big. They're expecting to hear something from the album sound really, really good. And so there are some bands that just, they really make it amazing. Getting into the drinking area once more. 9 Inch Nails, my favorite band. I've seen them a bunch of times.
Take a shot.
It's pretty much it's pretty much all. I mean, it's not all done electronically in studio, but there's a lot of electronic wizardry involved, because that's how he does a lot of his Trent Reznor does his signature stuff. But doing it live, he takes really, really great pains to make sure that a lot of the looped material is able to translate on an actual, like, a keyboard, and with a slightly different tone, or even some guitar and everything. And it's just incredible to hear it live compared to what it is on the album.
Well, that guy puts on a show too, and that's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. When you're putting your bucks down on a show, I mean, the energy has to be there. The audio has to be there, but these guys have to put on a show. And a buddy of mine and I, maybe a year or two ago, went to go catch a Van Halen show with Diamond Dave singing out there. A couple of buddies of mine and I went to that thing, and we walked away going, it was junk. It was horrid. I couldn't believe it. I don't know if that guy has a tin ear in a big room, but whoever was sitting on that board, mixing that room and making it sound like an auditorium gymnasium with no carpeting and zero. I mean, it just sounded like an echo chamber inside there, and they couldn't control a single aspect of the tones. And it was awful. It sucked so bad. I felt ripped off, and I was so excited to see them with Dave singing. And it was a big letdown.
Yeah, good sound guys seem to be almost like a dying breed these days too, since everybody's a producer once you get yourself a laptop.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it's a skill that takes you'll never perfect it unless you do it over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you have to get so good at A, recording it, and then B, processing it in such a way that it comes out very refined, and it takes a really long time to do it, because it's a skill, man. It's a real skill, and usually when people think about doing that, they think about going to school. Most of the musicians or engineers that I am connected to, offer schools for people to do this, and it's expensive. And then really, the best thing you can do is just do it for yourself over and over and over. And I just have I've done it for a really long time, made some really crappy recordings, and over time, I've liked the tone, the feel, the sound better and better as time has moved on. So I think I got lucky, and at the same time picked up some pretty good skills along the way with that. But it takes forever.
Oh, yeah, definitely. All right, well, now it is time for taking a break for sure.
Yeah.
So we're going to play some music, and when we come back, that's when
you're going to unload the cannon?
Controversial. Oh, boy.
Right.
So when we come back, we're going to ask Scott about the songs he wrote for Mr. Donald Trump.
Trump tunes, baby.
Got anything to add to that, Shins?
Whatever, dude. Whatever.
Whatever, dude.
Whatever. All right. Okay.
Disclaimer. Let's Talk About the Music, LTATM Radio, is broadcast on Spreaker.com. We play only independent musicians from across the globe. We get all of our music